Chapter 1. The Anniversary. Implosion. I left my own anniversary party with nothing but my dignity and a plate of cold shrimp. But I had a plan, and it didn't involve reconciliation. Let me back up. 20 years of marriage deserved a celebration, or so my wife Megan insisted. She'd spent 3 weeks planning this elaborate penthouse party, inviting everyone we knew, and several people I wished we didn't. The champagne was flowing, the catered food was pristine, and my wife was glowing, but not because of me. Tom, you simply must meet Dylan again, Megan gushed, dragging me toward a muscular guy with perfectly styled hair and a smug grin. You remember Dylan from college, don't you? Of course I remembered Dylan. Megan's ex-boyfriend, the one she'd dated for 2 years before we met. The one she still followed on social media. The one whose gym membership she'd mysteriously acquired last year. Sure, I said, extending my hand. The backup husband? The joke had been floating around all evening. Megan's friends Lisa and Carol thought it was hilarious. How Megan had kept Dylan as her emergency contact for 20 years. How she'd joke about having a plan B if things with me didn't work out. How Dylan was still single and available. Tom's so funny, Megan laughed, but her eyes weren't laughing. Dylan's been such a good friend to both of us. Friend, right. Friends don't text each other at midnight. Friends don't have private gym sessions. Friends don't exchange the kind of looks I'd been watching all evening. I'm not stupid. I manage high-end corporate events for a living. I noticed details. The way Megan had spent an hour getting ready, trying on 3 different dresses, the way she'd positioned Dylan next to her at dinner, the way she kept touching his arm when she laughed. Tom's always been the jealous type, Carol was telling someone near the kitchen. But honestly, if I had Dylan as a backup, I'd be tempted too. Megan's got the best of both worlds, Lisa added. Stability with Tom, excitement with Dylan. She's always been smart that way. I stood there holding my whiskey, listening to my wife's best friends discuss her affair like it was a stock portfolio. The rage built slowly, professionally. I've learned to control my emotions in this business. You can't throw a tantrum when a client changes their entire wedding theme 3 days before the event. But this wasn't business. This was my life. Dylan, I called out, walking across the room with deliberate calm. Mind if I tag you in? The room went quiet. Not completely silent, but that subtle shift when people sense drama brewing. What do you mean? Dylan asked, still wearing that cocky smile. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my wedding ring. 20 years of marriage, reduced to a simple gold band. I'd put it on with such hope and excitement 2 decades ago. Now it felt like a shackle. You've been auditioning for my role all evening, I said, placing the ring on the coffee table with a soft clink. Congratulations, you got the part. Megan's face went white. Tom, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago. I looked around the room at our friends, our family, our son Ben standing wide-eyed by the window. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for coming to my farewell performance as Megan's husband. Dylan will be taking over the role, effective immediately. The silence was deafening now. Even the caterers had stopped moving. You're being ridiculous, Megan hissed. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I grabbed my jacket from the coat closet. Dylan, the penthouse rent is due on the 15th. Megan will explain the details. Oh, and the anniversary party? That's on you now, too. The caterers expect payment tonight. I walked toward the door, every eye in the room following me. At the threshold, I turned back one last time. Happy anniversary, darling. I hope he was worth it. Chapter 2. Start of the war. I always loved a good opening move. She thought I'd fold. She hadn't seen the rest of the deck. My secret condo was a 15-minute drive from the penthouse, the same condo I'd bought 3 years ago as an investment property. Megan had refused to live there, calling it too small and beneath our status. Perfect. She didn't even know I still owned it. While she was probably explaining to Dylan why her husband had just handed him a $4,000 rent bill, I was making phone calls. Janet, it's Tom. Sorry to call so late, but I need to freeze the joint accounts first thing Monday morning. Janet Morrison was the best divorce attorney in the city, and she owed me a favor. I'd planned her daughter's wedding last year, turning a potential disaster into a fairy tale when the original venue burned down. Tom, are you sure about this? It's pretty aggressive. She's been planning this for months, Janet. I'm just catching up. The beautiful thing about being married to someone for 20 years is that you know all their financial habits. Megan lived paycheck to paycheck despite making six figures at her PR firm. She spent money like water, designer clothes, expensive dinners, spa treatments, and lately, a personal trainer who looked suspiciously like Dylan. Our joint account had $12,000 in it, legally mine to withdraw. Her car, a BMW I'd bought for her birthday 2 years ago, was titled in my name, legally mine to reclaim. The penthouse lease was month to month, and I'd been the one signing the checks, legally mine to terminate. By Monday morning, Megan would wake up to discover that her comfortable life had evaporated overnight. No access to money, no car, and 30 days to find a new place to live. My phone buzzed with texts starting around midnight. Tom, please call me. We need to talk. This is insane. Come home so we can discuss this like adults. You're scaring Ben. He doesn't understand what's happening. I turned off my phone and poured myself a scotch. Ben was 16 and smart. He understood exactly what was happening. He'd probably been watching his mother's behavior longer than I had. Tuesday morning brought more interesting developments. Janet called with an update. Megan's attorney is panicking, she reported. Apparently she had no idea about your financial situation. She thought the joint account was your only asset. What about the penthouse? She's scrambling to cover the rent and the anniversary party bill. The caterers are threatening collections. And Dylan? Janet laughed. Funny you should ask. Seems Mr. Wonderful's gym is leveraged to the hilt. He can barely cover his own expenses, let alone play sugar daddy to your wife. Perfect. Megan had bet everything on a man who was broker than she was. There's something else, Janet continued. I did some digging on Dylan's business. His gym has some interesting regulatory issues. Health code violations, unpaid taxes, complaints from former employees about wage theft. Interesting how? Interesting enough that a concerned citizen might feel compelled to report them to the appropriate authorities. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Janet, you're terrible. I learned from the best. Your event planning skills translate beautifully to legal warfare. That afternoon, I drove past the penthouse. Dylan's Mustang was parked outside, a cherry red convertible that screamed, midlife crisis. I took a photo and sent it to my son with a simple message. Your mom's new boyfriend has interesting taste in cars. Ben texted back immediately. Dad, can I come stay with you? Anytime, kiddo. Your room's ready. By Thursday, Megan was getting desperate. She showed up at my office looking haggard and angry. Tom, this has gone far enough. You can't just destroy our family over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I didn't look up from my computer. Is that what we're calling adultery now? I never slept with Dylan. But you wanted to. You planned to. You were already living like you had. I finally met her eyes. The only thing that stopped you was timing. She sat down without being invited. What do you want? I want you to understand what you threw away. 20 years of marriage, a son who worshipped you, and a husband who would have done anything for you. You traded all of that for a man who can't even pay his own rent. Dylan's business is just going through a rough patch. Dylan's business is about to go through a lot more than a rough patch. Her face went pale. What did you do? Nothing illegal. Nothing unethical. Just made sure the right people knew about the right violations. I stood up and walked to the window. You wanted excitement, Megan. How's this for exciting? Chapter 3. The Investigation. It's amazing how fast your world crumbles when the right domino falls. I just gave it a little nudge. The private investigator I hired was named Rick Santos, a former cop who specialized in matrimonial cases. He had the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd seen every variety of human betrayal. Your wife's not particularly careful, Rick reported over coffee. She and Dylan have been meeting at his gym after hours for 3 months. They're not exactly hiding it. Define not hiding it. Rick slid a folder across the table. Photos, timestamps, witness statements from gym employees. They've been using his office for what he calls private training sessions. The photos were damning but not explicit. Megan leaving the gym at 10 p.m., Dylan's hand on her back, intimate conversations in his car. Enough to prove emotional infidelity, probably enough to suggest physical. There's more, Rick continued. Dylan's been bragging about it, telling people at the gym that he's upgrading from his current situation. Apparently, your wife promised him she was leaving you months ago. What about his business? Disaster waiting to happen. He's been selling supplements without proper licensing, paying employees under the table to avoid taxes and running the place like it's 1995. The health department would have a field day. Hypothetically, if someone were to report these violations, they'd shut him down within a week. I made the call that afternoon. An anonymous tip to the health department, backed up by specific details Rick had gathered. Nothing vindictive, just a concerned citizen reporting legitimate safety violations. The investigation began immediately. Friday night, I decided to do some reconnaissance of my own. I parked across from Dylan's gym and waited. Sure enough, Megan's Uber pulled up at 9:30 p.m. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Tight, expensive, and definitely not appropriate for working out. I followed her inside, staying in the shadows of the parking lot. Through the windows, I could see them in Dylan's office. Not kissing, but close enough. Her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. The body language of two people who were definitely more than friends. My phone had an excellent camera. The photos I took were crystal clear, but the real jackpot came when they moved to the main gym floor. Dylan had set up some kind of romantic scene. Candles, wine, soft music playing through the sound system. Megan was laughing, spinning around like a teenager. And then she started talking, loudly, drunkenly. I should have done this years ago, she was saying. Tom's so boring, so predictable. He has no idea what he's about to lose. You sure you're ready for this? Dylan asked. Divorce is messy. I've been ready for months. I just needed to make sure you were serious about us. Baby, I've been serious since college. You're the one who got away. Well, I'm not getting away anymore. They kissed then. Long, passionate, and completely damning. I got it all on video, but I wasn't done. While they were distracted, I slipped around to the back of the building. Dylan's precious Mustang was parked in his reserved spot, gleaming under the security lights. I didn't key it. That would be vandalism. Instead, I left a small gift under his windshield wiper, a printed photo of him and Megan kissing, with a simple note attached. Smile, you're on camera. A friend. The next morning, Rick called with updates. The health department showed up at Dylan's gym yesterday afternoon, he reported. Found violations in the kitchen, problems with the equipment maintenance, and some interesting discrepancies in his employee records. How interesting? Interesting enough that they're recommending a full audit. Could take weeks to resolve, and he'll have to shut down operations until everything's cleared up. What about Megan? She's been calling in sick to work. Her boss is getting suspicious. Apparently, she missed an important client meeting yesterday. I smiled. Megan's PR firm was notoriously demanding. Missing meetings was career suicide. Rick, I need you to do one more thing for me. What's that? I want you to find out everything you can about Megan's work relationships. Specifically, anyone who might be interested in knowing about her current extracurricular activities. You thinking about going nuclear? I'm thinking about being thorough. Chapter 4. Physical Revenge. You know you've won when the other guy's best move is a hit and run. Dylan's gym was closed by Tuesday morning. Yellow notices plastered across the front door. Health code violations, they said. Pending investigation. I drove by just to see the look on his face as he stood outside, reading the official paperwork. He looked like a man whose world was collapsing. Good. That evening, I decided it was time for a more direct approach. I waited in the parking garage beneath Dylan's apartment building, leaning against his precious Mustang when he came home from whatever job he was scrambling to find. Nice car, I said casually. Shame about the gym. Dylan stopped dead, keys in his hand. Tom, what are you doing here? Having a conversation, man to man, the kind we should have had months ago. He tried to walk past me, but I stepped sideways, blocking his path. Not threatening, just present. Look, Tom, I know you're upset, but upset? I laughed. Dylan, upset is what you feel when your team loses. Upset is what you feel when it rains on your vacation. What I feel is something much more focused. Are you threatening me? I'm explaining something to you. I pulled out my phone and showed him the video from Friday night. His face went white as he watched himself kiss my wife. Where did you get that? I took it while you two were declaring your love in your gym that's now closed indefinitely. I put the phone away. Here's what's going to happen, Dylan. You're going to disappear from my wife's life. Completely. No more texts, no more calls, no more midnight training sessions. You can't make me, can I? I stepped closer, not touching him, just invading his personal space. Your gym is closed. Your business is under investigation. Your landlord is probably wondering how you're going to pay rent without income. How much of your life can you afford to lose over a married woman? Dylan's jaw tightened. Megan's leaving you anyway. Maybe. But she's not leaving me for you. Not anymore. I walked around to the driver's side of his car and ran my finger along the paint. Still pristine, still perfect. You know what I love about classic cars, Dylan? They're so fragile. One little scratch, one tiny dent, and the value plummets. Don't touch my car. I'm not going to touch your car. I don't need to, I smiled. See, the beautiful thing about having money is that you can afford to be patient. You can afford to wait. You can afford to let other people make mistakes. I pulled a business card from my wallet and tucked it under his windshield wiper. That's my lawyer's number. When you're ready to discuss staying away from my family, give her a call. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Dylan? That video I showed you? That's just one copy. I have others. Lots of others. It would be a shame if they ended up on social media, don't you think? The next few days were entertaining. Dylan tried to retaliate, of course. He called my office, demanding I stop harassing him. He sent angry texts threatening to expose my crazy behavior to Megan. He even showed up at my condo building, pounding on the front door like a lunatic until security escorted him away. But the best part was watching him try to salvage his relationship with Megan. According to Rick's surveillance, they'd been having increasingly desperate meetings at coffee shops and hotel lobbies. Megan was getting frustrated with Dylan's inability to provide the lifestyle she'd expected. Dylan was getting desperate as his financial situation deteriorated. The final straw came Thursday evening. I was having dinner at Romano's, an upscale Italian place downtown, when Megan and Dylan walked in. They didn't see me at first. I was tucked away in a corner booth, enjoying the show. They were arguing, loudly enough that other diners were starting to stare. You said you had money, Megan was hissing. You said you could take care of me. The gym situation is temporary, Dylan insisted. Once I get through this investigation, when? Tom's frozen all my accounts. I can't even pay for groceries. We could get a place together. Something small, just until... Small? Megan's voice rose. Dylan, I'm not moving into some studio apartment. I have a reputation to maintain. That's when I decided to join the conversation. Excuse me, I said, walking over to their table. I couldn't help but overhear. Are you folks having financial difficulties? Megan turned around, her face flushing red when she saw me. Tom, what are you doing here? Having dinner, same as you. I smiled at Dylan. How's the job search going? Get lost, Tom. Actually, I have a better idea. Why don't you get lost? I pulled out my phone and showed them both the video again. See, I was thinking of sharing this with some mutual friends. Lisa and Carol, for instance. They'd find it fascinating. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Megan grabbed Dylan's arm. Let's just go. No, Dylan said, standing up. I'm tired of this guy's games. Games? I laughed. Dylan, this isn't a game. Games have rules. Games are fair. This is something else entirely. He took a step toward me, and I could see the desperation in his eyes. A man with nothing left to lose. You think you're so smart, he said. You think you've won. I don't think I've won, Dylan. I know I've won. The question is, How much more you want to lose before you accept it? That's when he snapped. Dylan lunged at me, swinging wildly. I stepped aside easily. The man was emotional, not tactical. He stumbled, crashed into an empty chair, and went down hard. The entire restaurant was staring now. Megan looked mortified. "Sir, I'm calling the police," the manager announced. "No need," I said calmly, helping Dylan to his feet. "Mr. Morrison was just leaving. Weren't you, Dylan?" He looked around at all the faces watching him, at Megan's embarrassed expression, at the manager holding a phone. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Actually," I said, "it is." Chapter 5. Social and Legal Annihilation. She said I was heartless. She was right. She made me this way. The restaurant incident made the local gossip blogs within hours. PR executive's love triangle turns violent at Romano's, read one headline. Another called it midlife crisis meltdown at upscale eatery. Megan's professional reputation, carefully cultivated over 15 years, was crumbling in real time. Her boss, Patricia Hendricks, called an emergency meeting Friday morning. I knew this because Rick had cultivated a source inside Megan's PR firm, a junior associate named Amanda who'd been passed over for promotions while Megan advanced. "They're suspending her pending an internal review," Amanda reported to Rick. "Patricia's furious about the negative publicity. Says it reflects poorly on the company's image." "What kind of review?" "They're looking into her recent work performance, client relationships, expense reports, the whole package." Perfect. Megan's affair with Dylan wasn't just personal anymore. It was professional suicide. But the real fireworks came Monday morning in family court. Janet had filed for an expedited hearing, citing Megan's adultery and abandonment of marital responsibilities. The evidence was overwhelming. Photos, videos, witness statements, financial records, showing her neglect of household duties while pursuing her affair. Megan showed up with a public defender. She couldn't afford private counsel anymore. She looked haggard, desperate, and completely out of her depth. "Your Honor," Janet began, "my client's wife has been conducting an extramarital affair for months while spending joint marital funds on her paramour and neglecting her responsibilities to the family." "That's not true," Megan interrupted. "Mrs. Richardson," the judge said sternly, "you'll have your chance to speak." Janet presented the evidence methodically. The photos from the gym, the videos of their romantic encounter, text messages between Megan and Dylan that Rick had obtained through perfectly legal means, financial records showing expensive dinners and gifts charged to our joint credit card. But the coup de grace was the witness testimony from Lisa and Carol. "We need to call Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Williams," Janet announced. Megan's best friends took the stand reluctantly. Under oath, they had no choice but to confirm what they'd been gossiping about for months: Megan's affair with Dylan, her plans to leave me, her complaints about our marriage, and her boasts about upgrading to a younger man. "Mrs. Peterson," Janet asked, "did the defendant ever refer to Mr. Morrison as her backup husband?" Lisa squirmed uncomfortably. "It was just a joke." "A joke she made frequently?" "Well, yes." "And did she ever discuss her plans to divorce Mr. Richardson?" "She mentioned it a few times." "How many times would you estimate?" "I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 times. Over the past 6 months." Megan's face was buried in her hands. The custody hearing was even more devastating. Ben, now 17 and legally able to express his preference, took the stand and calmly explained why he wanted to live with me. "Mom's been different for months," he testified. "She's never home anymore. She's always texting someone and smiling at her phone. She forgot my birthday dinner because she was at the gym with Dylan." "How did that make you feel?" Janet asked gently. "Like I didn't matter to her anymore. Like Dylan was more important than our family." When it was over, the judge's ruling was swift and decisive. I got primary custody of Ben, the house, most of our assets, and minimal alimony payments to Megan. She got her personal belongings and the right to see Ben every other weekend if she could arrange transportation, since I was keeping the car. Outside the courthouse, Megan cornered me on the steps. "You've destroyed everything," she said, tears streaming down her face. "No," I replied calmly. "You destroyed everything. I just made sure everyone could see the wreckage. What am I supposed to do now? I have no job, no money, no place to live." "I suggest you call Dylan. Isn't he your backup husband?" "His gym is closed. He's broke." "Then I guess you picked the wrong backup. That evening, I was in my condo enjoying a glass of wine when my security system alerted me to movement in the hallway. The camera showed Megan and Dylan approaching my door, both looking desperate and angry. They knocked, then pounded. Then Megan started shouting, "Tom, open this door! We need to talk!" I activated the intercom system. "There's nothing to discuss. You're trespassing. I'm not leaving until you listen to me. Then you're going to be here a long time." That's when Dylan made his biggest mistake. He tried to force the door. My condo had excellent security, reinforced locks, steel door frame, and multiple cameras recording everything. But Dylan was beyond rational thought. He threw his shoulder against the door repeatedly, while Megan screamed at me through the intercom. "You can't do this to us. It's not fair." "Life isn't fair, Megan. You taught me that." Finally, they gave up on the door and headed for the emergency stairwell. I tracked their movement through the building's security system as they climbed toward the roof access. Time for the final confrontation. Chapter 6. The Final Showdown. The roof of my building was a spectacular place to end a marriage, 20 stories above the city, with a panoramic view of the lights below and storm clouds gathering overhead. I found Megan and Dylan huddled near the emergency exit, soaked from the rain that had just started falling. They looked like refugees from their own bad decisions. "Romantic spot," I said, stepping out into the storm. "Very cinematic." "Tom, please," Megan said, her makeup running in the rain. "We can work this out." "Work what out exactly? Your affair? Your lies? Your complete destruction of our family?" Dylan stepped forward, trying to look threatening despite being drenched and shivering. "You've had your fun, Tom. Enough is enough." "Enough?" I laughed, rain streaming down my face. "Dylan, I'm just getting started." I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. A live stream was broadcasting to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter simultaneously, all of our mutual friends and family watching in real time. "Say hello to everyone," I said, turning the camera toward them. "They've been following your story with great interest." Megan's face went white. "Turn that off." "Why? Isn't this what you wanted? To be with Dylan? To leave your boring husband for something more exciting?" The rain was coming down harder now, and lightning flickered in the distance. Dylan made a grab for my phone, but I stepped back easily. "Careful, Dylan. We're on camera. Wouldn't want people to think you're violent." "You're insane," he said. "Am I? Let's review the facts. You seduced a married woman. You helped her betray her family. You destroyed a 20-year marriage for your own gratification. And when the consequences caught up with you, you tried to break into my home." I smiled at the camera. Which one of us sounds insane? Megan was sobbing now, her designer dress clinging to her body in the rain. "Tom, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Please just turn off the camera and we can talk." "Talk? Like we talked when you were sneaking around behind my back? Like we talked when you were planning to leave me for your backup husband?" I walked closer to Dylan, who backed toward the roof's edge. Not close enough to be dangerous, but close enough to make my point. "You know what the funny thing is, Dylan? You thought you were stealing something valuable, but you just took out my trash." "What do you mean?" "I mean, Megan isn't a prize. She's a woman who throws away 20 years of marriage for a few months of excitement. She's a mother who abandons her son for a gym rat. She's a person who lies, cheats, and manipulates everyone around her." I looked directly into the camera. "What makes you think she won't do the same thing to you?" Dylan's face crumpled as the reality hit him. He'd destroyed his business, his reputation, and his future for a woman who had already proven she couldn't be trusted. "The truth is," I continued, "you two deserve each other. You're both selfish, short-sighted, and completely incapable of keeping commitments. The only difference is that I'm done enabling it." I walked over to Megan and handed her a manila envelope. "What's this?" "Divorce papers, final decree, custody agreement, your new reality." She opened the envelope with shaking hands, rain soaking the legal documents. "You get nothing," I explained for the camera's benefit. "No alimony, no assets, no custody. Just the consequences of your choices." "This can't be legal." "It's completely legal. Adultery has consequences in this state. Abandoning your child has consequences. Lying in court has consequences." I shrugged. "You gambled everything on Dylan. How's that working out?" Dylan was staring at Megan with growing horror. You told me you'd get half of everything in the divorce. I thought I would. You told me Tom was broke. I thought he was. You told me your job was secure. Megan couldn't meet his eyes. She lied to you about everything, I said helpfully. Just like she lied to me? Just like she'll lie to the next guy. The live stream was exploding with comments. Friends and family members expressing shock, disgust, and support for my position. Megan's professional contacts distancing themselves from the scandal. Dylan's few remaining friends mocking his stupidity. Tom, Megan whispered, what am I supposed to do now? I don't care, I said simply. For 20 years, I cared about your happiness, your success, your dreams. I cared when you were sad, worried when you were stressed, celebrated when you succeeded. But you threw all of that away for a few months with him. I gestured toward Dylan, who was now sitting on the wet concrete with his head in his hands. So, figure it out yourself. Both of you. You're adults. You made adult decisions. Now live with adult consequences. I started walking toward the stairwell, then turned back one final time. Oh, and Megan? Don't contact Ben unless he contacts you first. He's been through enough. The last thing I heard as I headed downstairs was Dylan asking Megan, where are we going to sleep tonight? I didn't stick around to hear her answer. Back in my condo, I poured myself a scotch and watched the social media explosion continue. The live stream had been viewed thousands of times. The story was spreading across the internet like wildfire. Megan and Dylan's humiliation was complete and permanent. My phone rang. It was Ben. Dad? I saw the live stream. Are you okay? I'm perfect, son. How are you? Relieved, honestly. I was worried you were going to take her back. Never. Some things can't be forgiven. Good. Can I come over? This place feels weird without you here. Your room's ready. It's always ready. After Ben arrived and we talked for hours about everything that had happened, I stood on my balcony looking out at the city. The storm had passed, leaving the air clean and fresh. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I smiled and deleted it. Dylan could threaten all he wanted. He had no power left, no leverage, no resources. He was just a broken man clinging to the wreckage of his own bad decisions. Some anniversaries are unforgettable. This one, let's just say I got my money's worth.